Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this international launch of Carrie Phipps's book, How to Talk to Strangers. I'm Joe Augustine. I'm your MC, and I am struggling myself to learn to talk. But we're going to have an interesting conversation today as we find out about. For those of you who know Carrie, of course, you already know a lot about her, but you'll find out more about the process that went on behind this book and this project of hers that she is launching to the world, and she's very proud to bring to you today. Thank you so much for being part of our event. If during the course of this conversation or this launch, you have something to say, you have things you want to talk about and all that, please feel free to use the chat function because that is absolutely what we want this to be, an interactive conversation. And hopefully by the end of it all, not with strangers, people that we'll know quite well. It's my pleasure to bring on Carrie Phipps right now just to speak a little bit about the book. So Carrie, hi, and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate you facilitating this conversation. I know it's going to be so exciting, and just seeing all the contributors coming into the room. And thank you to everyone for your patience in just being in the waiting room for a couple of minutes. I can see gorgeous smiling faces from all over the world. Thank you for being here. So I probably won't keep up with the chat until later, but Serene and Joe will help me to know what's happening there. I can see Anna from Sydney and Patrick from the USA. It's 10 p.m. over there. And some dear friends down in Melbourne, Kaylee Chu, who's a contributor, and Connor, and Ian Palmer. And yeah, you're calling in from everywhere. So thank you.
So I'm looking at this in terms of what we have planned today. We've got three themes to launch the book today. The first of the themes is inspiration and encouragement. Second is action, buy books, take action. And the third is a recognition and celebration of connection and collaboration. Now, I got to tell you, Carrie, I am someone who, when I say I don't read books, that's exactly what I am. I'm someone who hardly ever picks up a book and reads it. But you also released this book in a format which was very friendly to someone like myself, which is the Mobi format. So it was actually a very small page. I could read it on my mobile. So I did actually manage to read the book and found that it was a rather different book. And the first of which ways in which it was different is that this is a book by many people, but it's not the usual thing where someone writes one chapter and then someone writes another one. It's actually a book that all across the book is co-authored.
Yeah, it's a different kind of book, and it was going to be like everyone would have a chapter, because I have done that before, my second book. And it was actually a conversation with Val Clark, who I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere here. There she is. Hi, Val. So Val just lives on the other side of town from here, so a 10-minute drive, and I sit there with all of my pages and device, and she says, what if you do it like this, and just kind of tipped everything upside down. And it was a beautiful mess. It was a bit scary for a moment, but I just wanted to weave everyone's stories into these themes of how we can reduce that anxiety that we just have in everyday life. And so much more at the moment. So whether it's in reducing our anxiety or somebody else's, those moments happen all the time, and we don't realize the impact that we can have, and to build confidence. And so to break it up into those themes and then making a bigger difference in the world. And people said, it's a long subtitle, to decrease anxiety, build confidence, make a bigger difference in the world. But I couldn't get past that title, because those three pieces are what it's all about.
So this is not just going to be an event where you launch your book. We want you to get something out of it as well. So in light of that, we're going to start something to take a temperature in the room right now. And this is where we'd like you to interact with us by answering this particular question. I'm going to launch the poll right now. The question is basically, I feel confident that my words can make a positive difference, and you're supposed to just reply with how much you agree or disagree with that. So if you would you please submit your votes there. We do have quite a lot of bias in the room, because I think we have a lot of speakers in the room. And as you can see, I don't know whether you can see the results here as they're coming in. I know Carrie can. and you can see it's leaning very heavily towards absolutely, probably, one or two maybes, and absolutely nobody saying no.
Well, that's great. So we're off to a good start. I think everybody here knows that they can make a difference and that they do. Sometimes we forget how much we can make a positive difference. So I thought, let's just, take the temperature of the room and see where are we at. And I hope that by the end, even if we should have an absolutely, because I think you'll leave here more convinced of how much you can make a difference.
So let's get down to it. I mean, even the idea how to talk to strangers and all this talk about anxiety and stuff like that. Is it really that difficult to speak to strangers?
It's situational, isn't it? I think, some people will say, oh yes, I talk to strangers when I travel, or, I talk to strangers, in this situation at work, but I wouldn't talk to a stranger on the bus on the way home. So I think everybody has a different perspective of, do we talk to strangers? And the reality is that we do. Every time you go to a new shopping center or deal with a new business, then you are talking to strangers, but we often don't think about how those interactions go.
There are times when, I mean, you talk about those times when it's difficult to do that. So let's talk a little bit about those times that it gets difficult, when you feel that tension building up. Like you said, if it's a low pressure situation, you don't feel anything. But what are those situations where you feel that pressure?
Yeah, and sometimes we really have to overcome something. And what you've just reminded me of, kind of an embarrassing, awkward story. But if you've been around for a while, you've seen my hashtag Be Okay With Awkward. And I think sometimes it's those moments where you feel most terrified and you don't want to talk to somebody, that you're so glad afterwards that you did. And this is just a small moment, but I was with a friend in Sydney who is super confident. Now, I know people assume that I'm confident, but I really push myself out of the comfort zone so much, and people see it and go, oh yeah, because you're so confident. I'm like, no, that just took something. But I was standing in a food court with my friend, and I just looked over, and there's people standing there waiting to order food, and I went, oh no. And she said, what? I said, oh, this man's got his fly down. And he's wearing a beautiful suit. He just looks really sharp, but the zipper's undone. And so I'm taking a moment to pause, like, should I say something? And she just looked at me and she goes, well, you're going to say something, aren't you? Because you talk to strangers. I said, just give me a minute. Anyway, so I walked over and stood next to him and just said hi. And I said, can I just be a friend and tell you that your zipper's down? And he was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And I said, well, I didn't know if you're going to a meeting with the CEO next, or, maybe it's just good to know these things. And we just had a laugh and it was fine. And then I disappeared thinking, I'll just let him have that anonymous moment. But then my friend marches over and says, do you know who just was talking to you? She wrote a book called Do Talk to Strangers. And I was like, oh my goodness. But, those moments that are awkward, we sometimes don't want to go help, but we do. And I don't know why, one of the more embarrassing stories came to mind first, Joe, but there it is. But, sometimes it's somebody who's sick, or, it's messy and it's awkward, but then you go, I'm so glad I could help, because I would want someone to help if that was my mother or my grandmother.
You have those situations where, it hasn't turned out quite that way, where you have talked to a stranger and been rebuffed?
Yeah. Well, just another yucky story. I remember asking a girl, she was vomiting on the train steps, and I just went, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. And she just kind of, wanted to shut out the world, I guess. And we do feel like that sometimes, but I think it's better to offer, because maybe later she thought, oh, well, it was nice that someone offered to help. Those moments help us feel less alone in the world. But yeah.
Well, I think what we've done is right now we've set the stage so that we can only go up from here, right? We've had the open fly. We've had a bit of nausea showing itself up in public. Now we can really take off here. Okay, so we talked about the contributors that are in the book, and you've lined up a few of the contributors today as well. I mean, they're all in the audience today, and it's wonderful to have. But you had a few that you picked out to share one or two stories. I don't know exactly which stories you have in mind when you talk about these people, but maybe you want to lead that. Who do you want to bring up?
Sure. Well, I did ask them also to contribute to the comments, and I can see that Cohen has as well. So yeah, onwards and upwards from here. But thank you for sharing that, Cohen. I was reflecting on some of our stories are travel stories, and most of us are not traveling very far from home at all at the moment. But one of the very everyday moments that Connor shared with me that I thought was so beautiful was just a note on a serviette. And, I'll share a photo of that later on social media. But that's just one that comes to mind as a very simple story. Connor, do you want to add any comment to that?
Thanks, Kerry, and thanks, Joe. And it's great to be with everybody today. Yeah, it was quite some time ago. Here I am in Australia. I'm describe myself as a Scot with an Irish name and English accent, who's now an Aussie. And it was coming to Australia. So it was 2006, and I'd been here for a couple of days. And one of the concerns that my wife and I had in our life was not only do we come to Australia, but where do we school and how do we school our children? And I was sitting next to this chap, and I, was actually somewhat anxious around, this massive potential journey from the UK to Australia. And we got chatting, and I shared one of our concerns. I said, well, I know nothing about the schools, and there was, particular schools that we were looking at. And he went, well, I'll share with you the schools in Melbourne. I went to this particular school, and we had this, amazing conversation. And I said, can I just, what have I got? Can I write it down? Can I write it down? And it was a Qantas flight, and out comes the Qantas napkin, and out go those, those schools. And then I was talking to the flight attendant now is the name. I appreciate in the book I've not used that terminology. The flight attendant, and this lady, she was telling me about her experience of schools. And I said, can I just wait a minute? And I ran away and got the napkin and wrote down the other schools on that napkin. And Kerry's got a photo of those napkins, and they live with me. They're in a folder behind me now, and they're so much part of my journey coming to Australia. And that's helped decrease my anxiety. And without, I don't know, would we have been so felt safe coming to Australia without that conversation? I'm not sure we would. And it's a key part of our life and journey coming to Australia. And I talked to that stranger, or those two strangers on the flight, and blimey O'Reilly, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, and I love that, because you have these serviettes, these paper napkins, whatever they're called in different countries, that are so meaningful to you, but those strangers have gone and forgotten all about it. They don't realize how much difference they can make.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. I just think it's just this simple little thing that really makes a difference. So I want everyone here to, as Joe said, be inspired and encouraged to know that you make a bigger difference than you realize. And that's very much a theme through the book. Someone else I want to call on before it gets too late. It's Patrick over there in the US. So Patrick is an amazing connector. Some of us met Patrick in Singapore in 2019. And I was actually walking past, and I heard him telling somebody that he'd written this book called The Connector's Way. And so I went, oh, I have to meet you. So while Patrick has shared some great stories throughout the book, it's actually something I'd like to ask him about that he's been doing recently. And that is connecting with people online, which is what we're doing. But Patrick, I've seen you connect with people on LinkedIn. They're a total stranger, but you have a little conversation, and then you're having a virtual coffee with them. Do you want to just tell us about some of the impacts that you've seen come from that?
Well, I think like many of you, we're in a new era where we can't have the real world coffees. So I found that I was using that as an excuse to be disconnected from people. And one of the best practices from this pandemic for me is it doesn't take a lot to invite somebody to have a coffee. So you see someone comment on LinkedIn, it looks interesting. And rather than just nodding your head or hitting the thumbs up, I'm reaching out to that person saying, hey, I really found that so interesting. Let's connect over a virtual coffee. And I just asked for 15 minutes of time. I've never been refused. And I've had some just wonderful connections, and I've gotten to know people all over the place. So it's definitely a practice that I think people are all a little bit bored of the people who they're in lockdowns with. So it's a welcome relief to have a stranger say, why don't we meet up and just have a conversation? That's led to some really cool things professionally, certainly expanded my horizons in terms of points of view, just hearing how people are doing at this rather unusual time.
Yeah, it's beautiful because you're connecting with empathy and an interest in others, which is in the asking model. I know some of you are quite familiar with the Do Talk to Strangers book. And it's the reaching out to have a coffee with somebody. You said you haven't had anyone turn you down. But of course, we've all had experiences of a new connection on LinkedIn saying, why don't we have a coffee? And you can just feel, oh, they want to sell to me. So it sounds like, Patrick, because your connection is around something that they've contributed to the LinkedIn conversation, and you're expressing interest in them as a person, then yeah, they're happy to connect. And I think that's
yeah. And I don't turn anyone down. So if anyone wants to connect with me for a virtual coffee, I'd love the opportunity.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Joe, I also want to highlight Anna. She's in lockdown in Sydney right now, but Anna's message is all about corporate kindness. And so I can just ask Anna a question, but Joe, feel free to also. But Anna, I think if you can just share with us what's happening in the corporate space. Kindness hasn't been a conversation in corporate Australia. We've got lots of different countries represented here. But tell us, what have you been seeing over the past few years?
I think it's been quite interesting, and it's good to be here. I'm sorry if my camera, the signal's going a little bit, or whether you can't understand my Yorkshire accent, so I'll slow down. What's really gone on, and I think what's been really interesting the past year certainly, is just how much more important connection has become. And I think the realization of how connected we are across the world, and that, we're not operating in a vacuum in any one country, that we're all completely interconnected. And, we've had a big shift in a way where I think people are now working from home. They might have gotten off their corporate treadmill that they didn't even realize they were on their 9 till 5s. And now a lot of these businesses are trying to work out, well, what's the new way of working, and how do we make sure we look after people? Unfortunately, mental health I'm worried, is going to be the next pandemic. This year, I think certainly has made people face their end of level baddies, whatever they have looked like, or things that they might have been running away from a little while. But I also think that what we've noticed, we're hosting a corporate kindness conference and awards later this year, where we're recognizing a lot of the businesses and leaders that have shown up during this time, and they've been kind to their people, to customers, to the environment, and to the community. And I think while we look at all of the disaster stories on the telly of this and that's happening, there's also this beautiful silver lining throughout the whole story, where you just see humanity showing up in its best form again and again and again, whether that's people looking after their neighbours, whether it's people really working hard to make sure their businesses show up in the right way at this time. And we've been really proud to be able to show up for the business community. We are actually just putting a great program in place, which launches in 3 weeks, where we were able to give $200,000 worth of scholarships to diverse business owners and leaders at this time, to ensure that they get coaching and the support they need moving forward to keep themselves afloat and get the focus they need. But the contribution of all of the businesses has enabled that to happen. So I think the future's uncertain, but one thing's for sure is I believe humanity is more connected than it's ever been, and I'm excited about the future. And I think the hope that we can share together is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. And I can see somebody's mentioned #KindnessPandemic, which is mentioned in the book. Actually, there's a Facebook group called The Kindness Pandemic, and every day there are stories of little moments of interaction where somebody has just been blown away by the help of a stranger. And, Anna, you talked about, humanity at its best. We don't see that on the news, but we do see that when we have conversations like this. We see it in the book. And so this is why we want to get the book out to so many people, to encourage them. I can see people are like laughing at Warwick Merry, and I'm not surprised by that at all. Joe, back to you. You've probably got other questions.
Oh, yeah, sure, I do. But before I get to that, just a public service announcement. Warwick, your fly is undone. So I'm listening to all this, and I'm hearing how the word strange, or any label, in fact, sometimes is that we look at stuff and we go like, these labels seem to be permanent, and I think that the the label stranger isn't permanent. It's very much something that that can morph and change straight away.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that. You know, the attitude I think you enter the world with, so that you know that, well, this person is a stranger, but not for long.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't think of people as strangers, but it is one of those words that everybody thinks of differently. And I did meet someone in Bali a few years ago who just loved my book, but she said, but I'm surprised that you have the word strangers on the cover, because that's such a negative word. And I said, is it? Perhaps it's like, food or money, that people might just go, okay, it's a thing. Or they might go, oh, there's a sense of adventure. For some people, you mention strangers and they go, oh, yes, please, I love meeting new people. And, other people do have fear around that word. So, I use the word because it is really such a conversation at the moment. People search online for how to talk to strangers. And, when we started with this title, which I thought we would publish way before now, but that's just my unreasonable expectations of self. But there were no books on Amazon called How to Talk to Strangers. Lyndon showed me this morning. There's a couple, but this is the one that we really want to get out, because it's not about talking to strangers to get business or to get what you want, but to contribute, to just be the best of humanity, like Anna mentioned.
So talk a little bit about this. I mean, the book is written by a group of people, right? How did you choose the people?
Yeah, this is interesting, because apologies to anyone who feels that I didn't ask them. And it was the people that I was in conversation with at the time. We came back from India in March 2020, and I'd sort of been brewing this idea. I had about 3 books in mind that Lyndon probably doesn't want me to even mention, because this is what we decided we needed to do right now. It's like, this is what the world needs. And I was just seeing everything unfold online, like you all were. And I just kept coming back to this question: how do I serve the world best right now? Because I don't want to just jump on whatever everybody's doing, but I need to look at how can I best serve? Because I know I'm at my best when I'm serving others. I don't want to get anxious about how do I run my business better? Because then I'm just not in a good headspace. So it came out of that. And I was talking to, lots of my Asia professional speakers friends, because I had planned to be working in Singapore a lot more over 2020. We were going to live in Asia for most of 2020. Serene actually was one of the last ones to jump on board, because I was referring her to a client in India. I said, can you speak there? Because I can't take on any more speaking engagements, because I've got to finish this book like this week. And when we talked about it, and she started sharing her experiences, and she said, oh, I could contribute stories. And I went, could you do it in a week? And she said, sure. And she just did. And it was so beautiful. And so some of you contributors will remember different things about the conversations that we had. Kaylee connected with me on LinkedIn because of Do Talk to Strangers, seeing that on my profile. And she had recently done a TED Talk and published her book called 100 Lunches with Strangers. So of course I was up for a digital lunch with Kaylee, and her mentor, who's a friend of mine also, was on this call with us. And so I said, Kaylee, would you like to contribute to this book? And John said, Kaylee, this is where you say yes. Nathan is in every book in some way that I've done. So this is my 5th book. And I think Lyndon, my husband, who's up, in the top corner for me, Lyndon and Nathan possibly cringe when I say, so I need to do this book, because they know the work that's involved, and they know that they can't really get off the hook. I'm just like, please, I need your contribution. But I really would like to acknowledge Nathan. There's been so much going on in the past year, for all of us. But I just love that he's not only created this beautiful cover and design elements, but contributed really thoughtful stories. And I remember when we were writing, when I wrote Do Talk to Strangers, and I spent a lot of time in Nathan's office. I think he prefers to work remotely, but I'm like, I have to sit next to you and look at my screen, and we're doing all this fine detail. And he shared with me about how when somebody moves into the neighborhood, he, bakes some brownies or something and takes it to meet the neighbors. And it's those little things nobody else knows about, but the person who has that interaction, they suddenly feel more welcome in their neighborhood. They feel seen, and all of those little stories matter. So yeah, if anyone wants to like comment about how it was that we connected and I just went, hey, do you want to be in this book? Feel free.
Sounds like you might be working on a sequel already.
Yeah, actually, I have to, no, I better just say there is another one that's kind of in the pipeline, but I go, that's a good 5 years away kind of project. But Kathy, I think, might have been one of the ones that was a little reluctant to share. There was a few who just went, do I have stories? I don't know if I have stories. Some people just go, yes, like Cohen Tan, who actually contributed to my last book, the Do Talk to Strangers Travel Toolkit. He contributed stories by messenger. I'm like, on Facebook, hey, Cohen, you were telling me about this taxi driver that you met. And then he just tells this story. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Can I put that in my book? And so I knew that Cohen would just say yes. But Kathy and maybe some others just kind of question, why am I in this book? So Kathy, would you like to share your thoughts?
Sure. I was just typing in there. I think I was a little reluctant, thinking that I didn't have many stories to share, but I was typing that what I remember is I was very late. Whatever deadlines you gave me, I was after that. But thank God your deadlines got extended and extended too. But when I sat down and forced myself to think about things, then some things came to mind that I really care about and that I'm glad are out in the world.
Yeah. See, now I can't remember who was reluctant and who was just busy. But yeah, I think everyone's. So thank you to everyone who was like super quick, like Serene, just like, here it is. But we all went through so much in the past 18 months, like multiple deaths in the family, major surgeries, losing business. Like there have been some major crises that our contributors have been through. So I am just so moved, delighted and honored that you've persevered with me to have this, actually a reality. And, everyone's stories matter. And there are so many that are not in the book. Like every person here has beautiful stories that you could share. And so I want to encourage you, like, while I'm not creating another platform for a book, but share your stories on your social media, on my social media, in the Do Talk to Strangers Facebook group. But we want to keep sharing these stories because, like the Kindness Pandemic Facebook page, people are so encouraged and they say, oh, that restored my faith in humanity. So clearly they need their faith restored in humanity, and you can be the person that does that makes that difference.
So the book is about an idea about going out there, talking to strangers, making connections, and doing something bigger. And while I'm talking about that, there's a little video that I think I should play in connection with this book. So this book's going out not just as a message and a gift in itself. We'll come back to talk a bit about the gift, but it also is literally a gift that you're giving to somebody else by buying the book. This video will explain what I'm talking about.
Hello, Kerry, and all the co-authors of How to Talk to Strangers book. Congratulations on the launch today.
Yeah, many, many congratulations from all of us in B1G1, because if ever there was a time when everybody needed to talk with strangers, it's now. This is all about, isn't it? About connection and so on, and recognizing that we really can make a difference through that connection. Talking of making a difference, we're really pleased that
every book purchased also gives access to life-saving clean water to families in need around the world. So thank you so much, Kerry, and everybody for making such a great difference by spreading important message and at the same time making great impact on the lives of people.
Well done, everybody. Awesome job.
So while people are putting in comments or messages, if you have a question that you want to pose to Kerry as well, please go ahead and put it in the chat. Kerry, maybe you could tell us a little bit about getting the actual book. It's an international launch. It's a different path for different people in different parts of the world.
It is, and gosh, I'm just recovering from that little message from Paula Masami. It's so beautiful. So yes, we got first copies in Singapore actually before Australia. We just have a different printer there, but we have it set up now. We printed in Melbourne and the US and everywhere through Ingram Spark, which is an Amazon company. So it's on Amazon. If people are in Australia, we'd love you to get it from our site because, or your local bookstore, because we love supporting local bookstores. Because we can do more giving, but every single book, whether you buy it on Amazon and we get paid $1 for it, or whatever it is, I'm not sure exactly, but we're committed to giving at least 1 week of access to safe drinking water to families in need through B1G1. But yeah, it is available anywhere. But yeah, the Singapore team have just picked up their copies today. We did have a cover printed for them to use in like local events, etc. And we've got an Australian cover as well, because we have Anna, Connor, Unami over in Perth, and who else do we have in Australia? Kaylee and Lyndon and Nathan, of course. Nathan's on the global cover. But yeah, it's the same book. It's the same content, but we just want to highlight as many stories as we possibly can.
You've got kind of a bonus going as well. I mean, someone buys 5 books or more.
Yes, I have gifts to share. And the word gift, I just feel like is over the whole book. You know, this book is a gift. It's a gift to each one of us that wrote for it, because now we have more insights and we learn from ourselves as we write. So if anyone's thinking, you know, you've got all these ideas in your head, put it on paper, because then you look back at it and you go, oh, wow, yeah. So now I look at my 2014 book or my 2008 book and I go, wow, thank you, Kerry, of 2008. Thank you. I'm still learning from myself. So writing is a gift to yourself. So thank you, everyone, for participating in that. But it's a gift to the readers. So if you're buying a book for yourself, it's a gift for yourself, but it's also a gift to all the strangers that you will interact with, and not only strangers, but every person you interact with. Because of course we need to remember that maybe someone who's sitting on the lounge opposite you for the last 20 years has become a bit of a stranger. You know, we can always get to know people in our world more. So little tangent, but yeah, so the gift, it is a gift to people in so many ways. It's just a book of ripple effects, like I thought my other books were, but this one, so much more.
So we're just about coming up to the end of the time right now. Any last things you want to get in here before?
Yes to Warwick. I think I say yes to
out?
Warwick. You buy 1 pallet of books and get a pallet free. I think we can probably manage that, Lyndon. So thank you, Warwick. We'll organise that later.
As long as he puts on his pants when he answers the door, I mean, I think we're happy with that,
that's all right? Well, yeah, that's the delivery guys will have to deal with that. Yeah, but thanks for asking. And Ian's asking who's publishing it in Australia. So Linda and I are the publishers. Our company is the publisher, but it's through Ingram Spark, Lightning Source, Amazon. So you can go to your local bookstore and request it. They can search for it. If they don't have it in stock, they will get it in stock for you. Also, please ask your local libraries, because so many more people will get access to it that way too.
Great. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of people. I hope you've managed to get all the thank yous that you wanted to get out.
Oh, goodness, I don't even know. But yes, I've acknowledged Val, but thank you to Val. Thank you to you, Joe, because this is just so lovely to have somebody else managing the tech and the conversation, because I could talk for hours, and you know, I did want to pull a few people into the conversation. But I would like to say also that there are plenty more conversations ahead. So let us know if you would love to have a connecting conversation with your community, and you might say, hey, can we get Kerry and Anna and Kaylee to join a conversation with our community? Okay, let's see what we can do. And I know Ganesh is already organizing events in India, so you know, people on the appropriate time zone, and you know, might want to connect in with that also. So yeah, there's plenty more conversations. So please, you know, share on social media and connect with us. Actually, can I just ask all the contributors just to drop your LinkedIn or your favorite social in the comments there, so people can follow you immediately. But you will find everyone's contact details in here. And some books, because Connor's written a book called Trust, begins and ends with self. And Patrick has just launched the Connector's Way, sorry, the Trusted Way, which is a sequel to his Connector's Way. And of course, Kaylee has 100 lunches with strangers, which is amazing. And Nu has a beautiful book that she launched at the beginning of the pandemic, Syzygy, which is beautiful. So yeah, keep connecting, and have I said thank you to everyone. Nathan and Lyndon, big thank you. I'm just so grateful to these guys, and each one of the contributors, and everyone who is turning up here, here on Zoom and on Facebook Live. And I haven't even had a chance to see any messages or comments there, but we will catch up.
Kerry, I'd love to say something if that's okay.
Sure.
And I'm just jumping in, but I just wanted to say thank you for being such a connector of humans and people. And it's not an easy task bringing this many people together to collaborate. And I just wanted to say well done. And I know it must feel like quite a big project, but I think maybe can we all give a high five, a bit of a round of applause for Kerry, because it's really impressive stuff. And I'm just so grateful and thankful to have been on the journey. Yeah, so well done. It's not easy, and you've done a great job. And I really believe it'll be a book that will give people a lot of support, love, reassurance, and inspiration right now when they need it the most. So
thank you, Anna. That's so beautiful. But I feel like going, can we just thank Lyndon, because I bite off more than I can chew. I go, let's do this, and then let's just add another like 5 people. It'll be okay. But Lyndon is more realistic, and he knows that it's not going to be okay. It's going to be quite challenging. I just go, but it's going to encourage and inspire people, and that's what I'm all about. It's going to help people connect. So yes,
so maybe we should give Lyndon a round of applause then. Anyway, well done, Lyndon. The wind beneath your wings.
He can't get away from it, really. He's we've just celebrated our 27th wedding anniversary, and yeah, it's been quite an adventure. So thank you, my darling. And Warwick's nailed it. Lyndon picks up the pieces and shoves it all together. Yeah.
I also got a message from Connor, who I think wanted to say something similar. I'm not sure if Anna's beat you to the post there, but Connor, you want to say something as well?
Well, I absolutely echo what Anna's just said. So I've got no more to add other than thank you, Kerry, for being such a great connector. And well, actually, if I may, so on page 26 of the book, you say that in 2014, you said you make a bigger difference than you know. And here in 2021, certainly on my behalf and behalf of all of us, you still are making a bigger difference than you know. I sit with this book, the diary on my desk every day. So you're present with me every single day, and I complete this. So Kerry, you genuinely do make a bigger difference than you know.
Thank you, Connor. I appreciate that. And I think Nathan asked me a question the other day that made me realize, like, oh, I'm still learning from this book. I keep realizing that I too make a bigger difference than I know, because I'm telling you guys all the time that you make a bigger difference. So thank you for that reminder, Connor. And yeah, my first book, who knew that people would still be appreciating it? How many years later? It was 2008 when I did that. And just this awkward little offering into the world, and that I love, but other people have too. So it's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, should we do another poll and see if we've moved the probablys and maybes up to an absolutely?
Sure, let's do this. And the poll is up, and if you'd like to put in your responses right now.
No pressure, but yeah, hopefully everyone here can see that they themselves make a bigger difference. And you know, I rang a friend a little while ago when you know, I was just having one of those rock bottom moments, you know, where you feel like, you know, that it's not rock bottom, or maybe it feels like it, but it's not temporary. And so I just said to this friend, I'm just calling you because I just wanted to chat with somebody who believes alongside me that that rock bottom is temporary. And she's like, oh yes, of course. And you know, we had this conversation, and she was actually in a pretty dark place, you know, like, do we just completely close the business, and what do we do? It's, you know, dire situation. But by the end of the conversation, we were both so encouraged. And I said to her, even the fact that I knew that I could call you for this conversation is an indicator that you make a bigger difference than you know, because you're just going about your day and trying to work out how you're going to cope with things. But because of past conversations, because of who you are, you're impacting me. So You know, even if anyone is not feeling their best, they're feeling like they're not contributing to the world, you still are, because you have had interactions with people that they're still telling somebody about. And I think that's something amazing that I've uncovered. You know, we've got Ian Palmer here from Melbourne, or down that way. Ian, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention what your volunteer work is at the moment, but yeah, okay. So Ian does Lifeline counselling, and we know that that's been particularly hectic in the past week. But the first time I met Ian, yeah, I just felt so encouraged, and we don't realise the impacts that we had years ago. Just being attentive, just listening to someone. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Well, Kerry, congratulations on the community. Congratulations on the books and this latest book as well, How to Talk to Strangers to Decrease Anxiety, Build Confidence, and Make a Bigger Difference in the World. The book is available, as Kerry mentioned, all over the place. It'll be in Australia. Go to your bookstores. You can head down to her website as well, kerryphipps.com. And for everybody else, everywhere else, Amazon is a great place to go and look for it. And thank you, everyone, for coming and being part of the event today. Now, this event is not going to be one of those things where we're just going to throw everybody off and say, okay, goodbye, and turn off the meeting. We're just going to end the formalities and then leave it in a kind of a chat mode. So if you want to hang out after all this is done, and perhaps if you're looking across the name list and you see some people who are currently strangers and you'd like to change the status of that, hang around and get that conversation going as well.
Yes.
My name is Joe Augustine. Thank you very much for being part of today's launch. And I look forward to speaking to everyone when you're not a stranger.
Thank you, Joe.
Hello, Kerry, thank you so much. But I would like to say something before we
Yes,
go.
and I want to call on Meenakshi and Ganesh also.
Yes, okay. So yeah, thank you, Kerry, for asking all of us to write. And for me, it was a little bit of a different story because I talked to so many people and so many strangers that I was like, okay, which story should I write? And then I chose a few and I said, Kerry, you just choose. Yeah. Right. And I'm glad that she chose one of them. The person is here in this room. Her name is Varsha. Right. She's become a great friend. We only met a couple of years ago and she's done work for us. And like we chat in the night at 1 a.m. and, you know, help each other. And she really helps me to be a little bit calmer. Like, you know, everybody knows I'm a very excitable person. But yeah. Varsha, the story is on page number 124. She's the person. Varsha, come say hello.
Hello, everybody. It's great being here.
Remind me, is this the dancing in the sorry, the walking in the rain story?
It's the rain. Yeah, she's a lady in the rain.
I was thinking because you were singing, you started singing a song. It's just such a beautiful, spontaneous moment of connection that I really, really loved that story. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys don't have to rush off, I do want to introduce you to more people because, you know, I'm looking at Katie there in Vietnam from the US. She has had the most extraordinary journey over the past couple of years, met Lyndon in Spain. So that story is in one of his stories. And Katie shared stories from other places where they connected with people. But also I want to introduce you to Meenakshi, who, and you can come off mute, Meenu, and say hi to everyone, because you've probably seen I'm a little more active on social media this year or the last couple of months, and that's Meenu's help. I just have a concept and she says, yeah, I can make that. And so she's putting all these beautiful quotes and little videos and videos.
Thank you so much for that, Kerry. And hello to everyone. So I'm Meenakshi. I'm from India. So this is a very special day for me too, because I've literally seen this journey of writing this book from last year, because I've had the amazing opportunity to work with Kerry and to closely interact with her. And I think more than the book, to be able to have a very daily basis conversation with Kerry itself is a big learning for me, because I'm not an introvert. I'm not a person who shies away from talking, but I realized that I had too many blind spots about communicating with people. I thought I was a pro. But then after talking with Kerry and with all the conversations we had, I think she's an amazing person. She exactly knows how to have a heartfelt, compassionate conversation with anyone. So thank you so much, Kerry, for actually, I didn't know if you realized that you had that impact on me, but I think I've learned a lot with regards to connecting with people, talking to them, having empathy and compassion. And I think this book is a reflection of all that. And so many amazing contributors have shared so many stories. And I've had little sneak peeks of that during our work with the book. So I'm so excited, congratulating all of you on this new journey. And thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Meenu, and it's lovely for people to meet you, especially if they've been getting emails or text messages from you. Ganesh has been such a great supporter since we met on LinkedIn, because he read an article that that he saw on LinkedIn, and then he was like, "Do talk to strangers." Oh my gosh! And then he came to my book launch in Singapore of my sequel, the Do Talk to Strangers Travel Toolkit, that I said Cohen's stories are in, and has been such a cheerleader and a champion of this book. So many times he's messaging me, "When's the launch date? When are we getting the book out?" I'm like, "It's coming." So thank you for your enthusiasm and for supporting us to get this message out more widely.
Just wanted to add that this journey has been shared with many people, friends, and important part of our life, which is the press. And I'm one of the representatives of the press for last 15, 16 years, and they keep asking me what's new and what's the breaking news. So we don't fall in the breaking news category, but certainly something that we can change people's life. So I would like to thank all the strangers who have made a difference in our lives so that we could empower them and in the process get empowered. So I strongly recommend everyone to be a part of this expedition. And I'm holding this book, and it's just like a fairy tale. All this, I could see all these characters coming on the screen and talking to me. So it's really awesome. And just an update that I'll be sharing the copies of the book with most of the press in Singapore and elsewhere. It's going to be a arduous task for a very long time. This will happen, but I just want to be a part of this movement where we make a difference. So thank you everyone for the support and understanding. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ganesh. And I'm getting messages from Unami. She had to go and catch a flight, and Belle needs to go as well.
Can we get a photo, a screenshot at least of everyone?
Yes,
Book.
yes.
Oh, yes, yes.
So do you want to organize that with gallery view or whatever? I've still got this.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I've got that already. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Joe. We've got a pro in the room. Just the slight tilt of the head. Love it.
The pro is Serene. She reminded everyone that you need a photograph as well. If you don't have a photograph, it didn't happen.
Yeah. Now I'm going to end the Facebook Live now. I had to do it on Lyndon's. I'm on Lyndon's computer. I thought I was logged in on everything on mine, but because of the browser I'm in, it just went to Facebook Lyndon Phipps. So we'll share it everywhere. But thank you for watching, and we're just going to stay on and chat with people who are in the Zoom.